Call the roll.
Okay. Director Rosario,
Here.
Director Wieskamp,
Here.
Chair Corbett,
Here.
AGM O'Connor.
Here.
Okay, and presenters and participants joining us today include Ruby Tumber, Tiffany Margalisi, Patty Gershnick, Renee Patterson, Rex Caulfield, Chief Teoboro, and Ann Castlebaum. Today's meeting is being held pursuant to the Brown Act as amended by AB 361. Board members and staff may participate via phone or video conferencing. Today's meeting is being conducted virtually with live audio and video streaming provided. Public comments may be submitted live via Zoom, email, or voicemail as noted on the agenda located on the Park District website. If there are no any questions about the procedures, we will begin.
Thank you very much, Ms. Valentine, and I think we are ready to go. And appreciate for talking about the way the meeting works. So let's go ahead, and our first item on the agenda is a review of communications site contract with Contra Costa County for public safety.
Good afternoon, fellow board members, park staff. My name is Patty Gershnick. I am the Communications Records and Property Manager for Public Safety, and I will be presenting on this topic. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And the presentation this afternoon will be on Contra Costa County Department of Information Technology and the 5-year contract that we will be looking for a recommendation for approval on. So some background on the relationship between the Park District and Contra Costa County. It's a long-standing relationship going back to the 1960s. There's a board resolution back in February of 1960 to start the relationship between the Park District and Contra Costa County Radio, as the FCC has updated all of the regulations in the 1960s to require a narrow banding. We updated that contract in 1963 to include maintenance and support agreements as well for that radio system. And the agreement's been reviewed, updated, changed, added to multiple times over the last 5 decades. And the last time I came to the board was in April of 2018, and that was for a 5-year contract with Contra Costa County for the same services we'll be talking about today. So we're currently using towers throughout Contra Costa County, and these are the towers that this contract specifies. So Nickel Knob, which is a small tower off of our Miller Knox Park, is a spur to our radio loop system. Rocky Ridge is one of our main transmitters. It's in Las Trampas, and it's one of our original towers. Krager is out by Contra Loma and Black Diamond, and it covers just about all of our northern eastern county area for radio coverage. And our Highland Tower is in just south of our Morgan Territory Round Valley, and it covers just about the whole eastern and southern part of Contra Costa County. Now Bald, which is Volmer Peak or original tower, is a little bit different based on the fact that it is on East Bay Regional Park District land, and it is our building, but Contra Costa County does operate that tower, and we do have equipment in their vault and on that tower. And as you all know, Contra Costa County is adding a new tower, our Carquinez Tower, which is brought before the board, and we'll be moving forward with that. That is being developed as we speak, and that will be another tower that will be added to this contract. So the services that are provided and covered by this contract is support for our low band microwave and radio equipment throughout the towers in Contra Costa County. It's not only just the towers and the vault spaces, but it's actually the repair, support, and alarm monitoring for the entire infrastructure for Solano, Contra Costa, and Alameda counties. They do monitor our system 24 hours a day and are on call 24 hours a day if there is an interruption with our services. They also provide code plug development, which is the radio frequencies that are plugged into our equipment. They do provide programming and services for the low band park operations radios, as well as the EBRICS or the public safety radios as well. And they are our access to all of the vaults, whether they're in Contra Costa County, Solano County, a private tower, Alameda County. Our Contra Costa County radio technicians are the ones that do provide access to that equipment. As you can see before you, the low band radio loop, which goes all the way up to Fairfield for our Solano County tower and all the way down to Monument Peak for our most southern tower, is supported by our technicians. And this radio loop does incorporate a tower on Mount Diablo. It is on state property, and they do support that as well. They support the equipment that our radio operators are using, whether that's a police or fire operating eBrix radio out in the field, or a low band system, or whether that's the dispatcher operating their computerized radio console in front of them. So they are supporting all aspects of our radio system. And the good thing about this contract is all the expenses are already accounted for in our operating budget for public safety. Whether that's repair and maintenance, or whether that's property or rental or lease, it's all already accounted for. So we're looking for a 5-year approval, not to exceed $125,000 per year, a total of $625,000 over the 5 years. And that would be broken down between the object codes of repair and maintenance and property and rental lease. So staff recommends that the board operating committee approve and recommend to the full board a 5-year contract with Contra Costa County, including the new Carquinez Tower, even though it's technically not built yet. And the total of the cost of the park district will be $625,000, not to exceed the $125,000 per year mark. Does anyone have any questions about Contra Costa County or the new tower or anything else that I presented at this time? I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing.
Thank you very much for all the details, the important details, and comparing it with what happens around the entire area. Appreciate that very much. Board members, any questions? Yes, Mr. Rosario,
Thank
and
you.
then Ms. Wieskamp. Sure.
Thank you for the presentation. What was the cost of the previous contract?
The amount was actually the same for an annual expenditure.
Okay.
It just have to go back every 5 years for reapproval. So it does have a cap at a 3% cost increase per year, and they have not exceeded that at any point in the last 15 years.
Wow, that's great. Sounds like a bargain. And also, I understand the low band part, but and that's our, I think that's our, we have channels 1, 2, 3, 4, I think.
So the low band is a park operations. We do have 1 through 9. It is channel 1 and channel 3 are the repeated radios that are spread out within the towers. Channel 4 is the direct connect between the two radios that are talking at the same park. So that's not repeated throughout the towers. That is utilized by park operations, and then the eBrix radio system is utilized by public safety.
And then where does high band kick in?
So high band is when there is a repeated audio. Our public safety used to use high band radios, and our fire department used it as well. That's transmitting at 144 megahertz instead of 44 megahertz. And we use a repeater system within the vehicle. So a fire engine's driving around, they're out on a high band radio, they talk back to their vehicle, it repeats back onto our low band system, and that goes around the radio loop and comes back into dispatch. So it's always coming back to us on low band, even if it's being transmitted on high band.
Great, thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Director Wieskamp.
The new Carquinez Tower, does it matter when it's completed? Immaterial to us?
It doesn't in regards to this contract. We just wanted to make sure that we incorporated it in the contract, as it will be one of the towers they will be supporting. It just won't be a charge to us based on the agreement
Sure.
that you guys approved earlier, that we will have our equipment in the vault and on the tower. They will support it. They will monitor it. It just won't be an additional cost to us. So it's a no cost item on this
How
contract.
can we say anything but perfection with that? Good job.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for, of course, giving us the details with regard to our relationship in these various different products. I do have a question. Do we have any concern whatsoever of any possibility for sparks from these systems at all? Do we have any fire issues we might be concerned with?
Each of our radio towers are supported by the county that they reside in. So Solano County, Contra Costa County, Alameda County, and they do meet all minimum guidelines that the county requires. There are generator backup, so we can go off of a PG&E power. So if there was a PSPS that did shut down due to a concern from fire, we'd still be operating our radio systems based on the generators that support all public safety operations. So that wouldn't affect us. And at this point, we don't have that concern. We've only been shut off once in the 7 years that I've been the comm manager, and we just went on to a generator. And Contra Costa County actually comes out, supports it, brings out their diesel, fills up the generator, and we keep running on that.
Okay, so we don't have any concern for sparks or fire?
No.
Okay, that's a good answer. Thank you very much. Glad to hear that. Yes, Mr. O'Connor.
Yeah, just to chime in on Patty's comments, Director Corbett, I've been to most of these sites, nearly all of them at one point or another. And for the most part, they're all fenced off, very little vegetation within the fence line. All the equipment is contained within concrete block buildings. So they're not like a transmission tower, like a high voltage transmission tower. They do have maybe 240 voltage coming on standard poles, but in terms of their generation of energy, that's not a possibility. So, and the vegetation is kept down. They're mostly gravel within the fence line, and the vegetation around the outside of the fence is also maintained. So I think there's very little possibility of them actually being the ignition source for a fire.
Okay, thank you very much. That's good to know. You know, we have all those things to be worried about in our 12-month a year fire situation. So thank you for that. All right. Any other questions, anyone? No. All right. Well, in that case, would someone like to make a motion?
I will make the motion to
I'll
approve.
second.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Rosario and seconded by Director Wieskamp. Please call the roll.
Director Wieskamp,
Aye.
Director Rosario,
Aye.
Chair Corbett,
Aye.
so moved.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. Now you have another one.
I do. I have my second presentation, which will be on the East Bay Regional Communications System Authority and Motorola. And I will go ahead and share my screen once again. So once again, board members, fellow park staff, thank you for letting me present. Once again, I'm Patty Gershanith, Communications Records and Property Manager for Public Safety. And we'll go ahead and move into our eBricks and Motorola presentation. So some history, East Bay Regional Communication System Authority, or eBricks, was formed as a JPA in 2007. And this was to provide interoperability for public safety agencies in Alameda and Contra Costa County. The concept was to never again have an Oakland Tunnel fire or 9/11 where there were responding agencies that were not able to communicate with each other and coordinate for a response to a public safety issue. So the Park District began using eBricks in 2011 at a minimum level, and public safety transitioned to the system in 2017. And that was for interoperability, as low band does not interoperable with any 800 megahertz or any other radio system. So Motorola Incorporated is a sole source approved provider for equipment that we utilize on eBricks. So what exactly is eBricks? So the entire system is a P25 compliant radio system, which is a standard that must be met to be maintained by the FCC, where you meet the interoperability between all public safety agencies. You have to be able to use the equipment to be able to talk back and forth on a channel so that you can respond to incidents together. There are currently 31 towers that cover the two counties, soon to be 32, and they'll actually be adding a 33rd in San Ramon shortly. And it's spread out to have optimal coverage where the population is based. And the equipment operated on eBricks is standardized equipment, and that's standardized to make sure that the encryption mandate is met. It is also standardized to be able to negotiate the lowest price with Motorola. So everyone is using the same equipment. We can purchase it in mass and get the best price available. Like I said, the towers are spread out. As you can see on the map here, Alameda County has 3 different distinct radio cells. in the northwest, the southwest, and the east of Alameda County. And then Contra Costa does the exact same thing. We are unique. We're the only agency in Ebrex that allows an officer to transverse all the way from the east side of Contra Costa County all the way to the west side of Alameda County and not have to change a radio channel. So we're very unique because of our transitory population, our officers being able to travel throughout the entire system, and Ebrex worked with us to make sure that that was maintained so we would have interoperability all the way throughout the 2 counties. So the Motorola equipment that we're operating on is very standardized. The police operate on a standardized radio, so every single officer has the same radio. That muscle memory is the exact same thing. They're getting in any of the cars, they're operating the system the exact same way. Our firefighters have a little bit more specialized equipment so that they can talk to all the different responding agencies. So their equipment is a little bit more advanced. It's called dual band, which allows them to talk to Con Fire, Cal Fire, and additional agencies, as well as agencies between Alameda and Contra Costa County. And our dispatchers do an incredible job. Not that that's an extra pitch for dispatch, but they do work on the dispatch consoles, and they do work between low band and Ebrex systems on the Motorola 7500 console. So once again, the good news is all the expenses already covered in the operating budget for public safety. So our communications equipment budget total for the year and our subscription budget total for the year well exceeds the amount that we're looking for the next 5-year approval, spending up to $130,000 a year out of our communications equipment and up to $95,000 a year out of our subscriptions. So we're looking for a recommendation that the Board Operations Committee approve and recommend to the full board authorization to spend up to $225,000 per year with East Bay Regional Communication System Authority and Motorola over the next 5 years. The total cost over the next 5 years will not exceed $1.125 million or $225,000 per year. And that is my presentation. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing and answer any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you very much, board members. Director Rosario.
Thank you very much. I mean, I'm supportive of the program, but I just have something that's always bothered me from the onset of this program, because Motorola basically has a monopoly on, so it's kind of hard to negotiate. What is there amongst the JPA? Is there some kind of contingency where if Motorola were to go bankrupt or something, that another company could step in with the same equipment, or would you have to change out everything?
So the actual system itself can be operated on different radio providers. Motorola is the provider of choice. If for some reason they decided to move away and go to a BK or a Harris or some other system, it could be supported. It would just be a transition in regards to making sure that everybody's purchases are the same so they meet the same standards. So right now, it's just easier to be able to say everybody's radio is going to be the same. It's going to be encrypted the same. We're going to have the same encryption key so you can move from area to area and be able to speak back and forth from other agencies and not worry about having to pre-program and have different radios operating on the same system. So yes, you are correct. Motorola does have a big giant monopoly. They were the negotiated vendor that Ebrex did back in 2007. And we do get mass purchase pricing discounts from them because we are purchasing not just for East Bay Regional Park District, but for both of the counties. So those costs do go down on the fact that we're ordering all together. And that's where the negotiated price comes from.
Okay, great. Thank you. That helps.
Any other questions? Do you have any additional comments you'd like to make as to why it is so important for us to be part of this system?
And the chief can back me up on here. The fact that we actually enter into 31 cities, and all 31 of those cities, we have to be able to talk to the police agency that could possibly be the closest cover unit for our officer. Yesterday afternoon, we had an incident where we had a subject with a knife on the trail at the Delta de Anza. Our officers are operating on our e-bricks and responding very quickly, code 3 out there. We had to call Pittsburgh and Contra Costa County to come out for cover units. The fact that they could hear them responding, how far away they were, how long it was going to take, when they were going to be there, and where the observation posts were going to be set up, it's invaluable for an officer for safety. And that's just the police side of it, let alone a firefighter being able to pull up on Highway 4 and coming Skyway on a fire and be able to talk to every agency that's going to pull up there with them.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Director Rosario?
Just an additional comment. I mean, before at Bricks, I mean, specifically, even the 91 Hills fire, it was a nightmare trying to talk with other agencies, total nightmare. And even though I had an Oakland portable radio, I didn't know who I was talking to. and unfortunately, I couldn't get hold of anybody on that radio either. So yeah, no, this is a huge advantage and as benefit to all the emergency workers in the counties. So all for it.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with that. It's so important to, just remember how we work with so many other different agencies, and also how large, our area is, and how important it is that we work together with so many. Because once something pops up, you have to make sure you can pull in the people who can be there to help. So thank you very much. It's a very important system to have. Thank you. Would anybody else like to say anything?
I'll just
Chief
join
Chaparro,
in. Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't think of anything. There are so many weird incidents happening now everywhere, and you just have to be able to address them as fast as you can. So I can't imagine trying to do without it. So thanks for the report.
Thank you very much, Director Wieskamp, and especially you have a very large district. Open space.
It does stretch over many, many miles, doesn't it?
Yes, so thank you. All right, Chief Chaparro.
Good afternoon, Board of Directors, community members, and colleagues. Anthony Chaburro, AGM of Public Safety. Thank you, Director Corbett, for recognizing me. Just to add on to what Manager Gershanik said, one other thing about eBrex is it is constantly evolving, and I represent the district on the Board of Directors, and we continue to evolve, we continue to assess and expand the system, not only expand it, but also fill in areas where we don't have the best reception or transmission capabilities. So that's really a credit to Director McCarthy, and he continues to examine that. And there certainly is always an effort to improve and fine tune the system. So it's a system that's continually getting better as well as we function in the many areas that were discussed and do the many positive things that it does.
Yeah, it's just a little important, huh? Just a little. All right, thank you. And thank you so much, Ms. Kashanik, for this great presentation as well. And obviously your serious concern about keeping things going in a good way. Thank you. Any other comments or questions, anyone?
Nope.
All right, well, we have another motion if someone would like to make it.
Be glad to make the motion to approve.
Thank you very much. We have a motion by Director Wieskamp
I will second.
and a second by Director Rosario. Please call the roll.
Director Rosario,
Aye.
Director Wieskamp,
Aye.
Chair Corbett,
Aye.
so moved.
Thank you very much. Another successful. That's another very important idea. Thank you so much for your help on this and experience. All right. Now the next item before us is a review of the Pgme Communications Site Lease Agreement with Pgme Clayton Ranch Regional Preserve. And we have with us Ms. Margalucci to give the presentation. Hello, how are you?
Hi, good afternoon, Board Operations Committee, Tiffany Margalisi, Business Services Manager, and I'm going to share my screen.
Notes.
Thank you. There we go. How's that?
Good.
Great. And can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Sure.
Wonderful. Okay, so this is a lease agreement. This presentation is about a lease agreement for an existing communication site within Clayton Branch, Black Diamond Mines. And want to acknowledge with me Renee Patterson, Administrative Analyst for Business Services, who did a lot of research on this item, as well as Park Supervisor Rex Caulfield. For the presentation, I like to take a step back and talk a little bit about communication sites within the Park District and our Park District's communication site policy, just briefly to help us frame the discussion. And then I'll talk about where this location is, how we get there, and the market rent analysis that staff has undertaken, and then conclude with our recommendation. This is showing here in the foreground the site, the subject of today's presentation, and in the farther background, Krieger Peak, which Patty Gershanik just spoke about. So not to go in too much detail with this, but we do have 17 different communication sites, 24 different lease agreements. We have 1 Park District site, 1 public entity site, and 15 private entity sites. It's important to note that these, I think all of them, in particular the private entity sites, were all pre-existing on the site prior to the district purchasing the land. We have a communication site policy that states that we will charge appropriate market rent to these sites. And the communication site policy also does acknowledge that communication sites provide a public benefit for communication, as we were just speaking about in the previous presentations. So what we have been doing under the policy and practice of staff is that we honor the pre-existing lease terms when we buy the property. And then when the lease is up, we will look at the market available data and bring it up to the market rate. As I said, we do have benefits of having a communication, as we've been talking about. And I do also like to mention, since I'm the business services manager, it's a good revenue stream, almost $1 million a year, over $842,000 a year for something that doesn't require any maintenance, any staff time in the field. These sites take care of themselves per the leases, so that's a good revenue stream. The site we're going to talk about today, I have a few different slides so we can visualize where it is. Here's the vicinity map showing where it is. I think it is technically Clayton Ranch area, and then here's an overview aerial photo showing the site. It is currently in a land bank area. It's not an area that's accessed by the public at all. As AGM O'Connor said, as similar to the other sites, it's completely fenced in. Pgme takes care of any vegetation management around the site, and it's well kept up. We took a ride out there with Park Supervisor not too long ago. It was part of a land purchase in April 2011, and the site itself is just less than an acre. It's a microwave antenna facility, and it's for internal communications within PG&E for monitoring their system, monitoring in different ways, and including fire safety. We asked PG&E, they have about 350 of these internal communication sites throughout California. And this one is, serving to monitor and communicate within their system for the Eastern Contra Costa County. PG&E is responsible for everything. The Park District has no responsibilities. We did bring this item about a year ago to the committee, who authorized at that time a 1-year lease, and asked staff to take a little bit of a deeper look at the market rate and see what we came up with in terms of a proposal for rent. So that's what we did, and that's why we're here today. So the 1-year lease term ended in March. They're in a holdover status, which means month to month, and we have some information for your consideration today. This we don't need to see the details, because I know this map is probably going to be small, but I think what hopefully everyone can gather from this is here is Kirker Pass, and it's a really long way to get to the site. So if you can see my cursor, here's Kirker Pass. This whole white section here is called Nortonville Road, and then Black Diamond Road. That is county road through areas that aren't part of the park. Then you approach, oops, there we go. You approach and you kind of align the boundary of Black Diamond Mines. And then from the boundary of the park to the communication site, it's just less than 2 miles. The dark green is current parkland, and the lighter green down here below is the land bank. PG&E says they go out about 4 times a month to check on things, and everything else they can do, they monitor remotely. One of the things that is an advantage, good, in the best interest of the district for this situation is that the access is the responsibility of the lessee. We have no responsibility to maintain this road. It is 100% on the lessee. Contra Costa County also accesses a nearby site. So if there was ever an access challenge, maybe PG&E and Contra Costa County would work that out if they would pitch in together. But again, we have no obligation to maintain it as a paved road or maintain their access, which is great. It's on them. So then moving into market rates. This information is not that readily available to come by. So really want to thank Renee Patterson for her work in this area. There's a lot of factors that go into it. The location, like all real estate, location. So many telecommunication sites, especially cell phones, they want to be near people. So the more urban the area, the more you can charge. That doesn't really apply here because nothing at this site is being resold. It's for internal PG&E communications only. The size of the site, obviously the bigger the site, the more we might charge. The smaller the site, the less we would charge. And that goes both for how many antennas and also how big the footprint is. I talked about this. Are the services resold? I think if the services are being resold, such as with the cell carriers, we would expect to really, charge a higher price. In this case, they're not being resold. Public or private is another one that we would consider. Obviously charging more to private, less to public. We do all of the comparisons that I'm about to present are comparing PG&E against other private entities. So we are classifying PG&E in the category of private, they're non-government. However, we all know they are a highly regulated public utility that we all utilize. So I just, we really did take that into consideration that when we are comparing within private, but knowing that they are a public utility. We were able to come up with 37 comparisons, including, benchmarking against ourselves where we're at in terms of lease rates. And we also found another great tool, which is the California Department of General Services has a standardized methodology for charging telecommunication site leases. And this was a great resource that we hadn't accessed before. And they have categories of what they consider a small, medium, and large sites based on what I said, number of antennas, square foot. And then they also categorize based on rural, urban, or prime urban, and go with there. So we were able to take a look at how they come up with their standard rates and then compare the proposal against the state's methodology. So this is just the summary highlights of what we found. We are proposing, staff's proposing for a $7,000 a month rent to PG&E for a first 10-year term. And when we look at the comparisons, that is more than the average of the top 10. So that was one thing we looked at. I said, let's look at the top 10 and average those. Top 10 came in around 6,500 a month. When we averaged all of them that we looked at, it came in, 3,526. And then when we look at the State Department of General Services methodology, they actually charge under $3,000 a month. So we think, in terms of where we're at in market, we're really happy to see that we're getting a really competitive rate here. And I'll show next on a chart. So the yellow shows where the proposed PG&E income is. The blue shows the state of California. And then this just, shows basically from the lowest charged up to the highest. We do still feel it's appropriate to recommend this $7,000 a month. It is on the high end. However, as you saw in the pictures, it's a big site. So it's a bigger site with a bigger footprint and a lot of antennas. So while the research we did validated the fact that we are charging competitively, we still think it's appropriate, and PG&E has agreed to pay the proposed rate. Another thing that has come up, we want to be transparent about, and it's part of some of our agreements, is subleasing. So I talked about how nothing is, no service is resold at this site, and that's true. And they are allowed, PG&E would be allowed to sublease with district approval. Currently, there is only one sublease, and that is the State of California Department of Water Resources. So public agency sublease, using it for state and public purposes. We would, right now, PG&E is not seeking any other subleases. They don't look to do that. They do try to be accommodating with partners. So for example, if they were approached by another public agency, they might approach the district staff and say, hey, would you consider this as a sublease? And then we would review one, whether that meets public benefit, and two, if we need to make any adjustments to the terms. But as of right now, there's only one, requires district approval for any more. And the standard rate throughout all of our communication sites is we charge a 25% of any sublease revenue.
Okay.
So what we're proposing is a 10-year term at $7,000 a month, and then with the option to renew for an additional 10 years at the Park District's sole discretion. We would propose to increase by $1,000 at the next 10-year term. It was asked, why do we do a flat, increase at the start of each term? We propose that as a way that's pretty efficient to address CPI, but without having to go in and calculate it and manually take care of it each year. So we feel it comes out with an equal amount of benefit, but in a little bit more efficient way. And then, as I said, the co-location or sublease would be 25% of income. So just a recap, the staff's recommendation, it's that the Board Operations Committee approve and recommend to the full board this renewal of a lease agreement with Pacific Gas and Electric Company, and for $7,000 a month for the first term, rising up to $8,000 a month if we go with the second term, and 25% of all subleases. And I will stop my screen share for a moment and see what questions we have.
Thank you very much. Any comments, anyone? Questions? Director Rosario?
Hi, thank you, Tiffany. Good presentation, and I think Director Waspy asked that this be closely looked at last year, and I really appreciate the research and the end result. So I'm very happy with this. Especially, I think it's a good deal, especially with the fact that they have to maintain that access road. Just, does Rex know how often that road's had to be repaved in the last 10 years or whatever?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that came up at the last committee, and we talked about, we don't have, we weren't able to locate that data. We weren't aware of any, recent work. We asked PG&E if they knew of any recent work. However, the trucks can get up there fine. They're accessing it fine, and ultimately, it's on them.
Great. Yeah, the fact that it hasn't had any work, that means that it's well built and sustainable. So yeah, I think this is a good deal. So thank you very much for the extra work and the comparisons.
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
Nope.
So I'll bring up my concern again, since this is out in the middle of sort of open space and sort of a grassy, dry area. Do we ask the folks, PG there, what they do to make sure that that's a safe place in the event there could be anything that could cause fire?
Yeah, Director Corbett, as I think you saw from some of the pictures in Tiffany's presentation, it's completely gravel around all of the buildings and the tower itself. I'm guessing Rex is on here, but I believe they maintain the vegetation outside the fence line also. And it's not a transmission site, so there's not a high voltage situation here. Like, PG&E's had challenges in different parts of the state with their transmission lines. This is not that situation at all. And as I said, the buildings themselves are concrete block. So any issue that may occur within would be pretty much self-contained. So I'm not concerned about it at all in terms of the potential for a fire ignition source.
And these are questions we should always ask.
Sure.
Thank you very much. All right. Any other questions, anyone? Okay. If there are no more questions, we can go ahead and move this matter.
I'll second.
Okay, so it was moved by Director Rosario and second by Director Wieskamp. Please call the roll.
Director Wieskamp,
Aye.
Director Rosario,
Aye.
Chair Corbett,
Aye.
so moved.
Thank you very much. Another supported product. Good one. All right, thank you. All right, and then we have the next item, item 5.
A change of pace.
Okay.
Everyone be ready. We're going to talk about
yes,
very
beekeepers.
soon.
Our Lease, as soon as you're ready.
All right. One moment. Okay, and then I'm gonna switch.
Notes.
There we go. All right. So now we're going to totally switch gears from public safety and communications to talking about bees. So staff, we're proposing today an apiary permit program, formalizing a longstanding informal program, and we have some great pictures I'm excited to share with you. So we have a longstanding use of certain parks by non-district beekeepers. And we recognize, as I'll go into more detail, this use by beekeepers has had great resource benefits in terms of pollination. It's had interpretive benefits through our naturalist program. And at the same time, it is a commercial use of public land, which is something that is needs to be addressed through a formal program as stated in Ordinance 38. So we want to address safety, vehicle access, any liability issues, as well as resource protection. And we also want to be fair and inclusive to new beekeepers making requests to come in and set up hives. So I'm going to be taking through some background and how we recommend to move forward. About a year ago, we entered into interim license agreements starting in June 2021. And those agreements are now in holdover month to month. And that was with our 5 existing beekeepers. They're at Ardenwood, Guerin, Quarry Lakes, and Coyote Hills. One is just moving out of Coyote Hills. And we said during this interim period, we won't be taking any new beekeepers. We want to get everyone under an interim license agreement and have a larger discussion about what to do. The interim agreements just cover the very basics. How do they notify the park supervisor? What are the the hours, and then addressing the basics of the liability, getting insurance on file from them, having them sign an agreement. So that was what we did about a year ago. This is a beekeeper over at Quarry Lakes in the photo. We have some great examples. This is an example of the hives over at the Guerin Apple Orchard, providing pollination benefits for the orchard. Here's Ardenwood. Ardenwood is the largest installation of about 40 hives, providing both interpretive and resource benefits. And over here at Quarry Lakes at the rare fruit garden. So we started this journey by looking, we did the interim licenses, we started our research. So we started with regulations. What are the laws and regulations? This is regulated by the California Department of Food and Agriculture in the Agricultural Code. And a lot of updates were just made in 2019 that reinforced and kind of strengthened a lot of the regulations around beekeeping. Bees have to be registered with the County Agricultural Commissioner. And you have to, if you're a beekeeper, you have to notify within 72 hours if you move, if you establish a new hive, and then if you move between counties. The hive, yes, it is interesting to find this out. The hives have to be identified by a prominently displayed sign that has the owner's name, address, and phone number. So that's something that we'll be getting all of our current beekeepers on board with, and then any new ones would have to meet that per state law. And there's a lot of organizations that have tried to make this easier for beekeepers to register. This organization called Beware. Beware in terms of WHERE. They've created a consolidated website where beekeepers can go on and find their county agricultural commissioner and register online. So I think this group will easily know about a lot of the benefits, supporting the district's mission, supporting our interpretive programs, providing pollination to unique park resources. And this would be, continuing this use would be consistent with the resolution affirming the East Bay Regional Park District's commitment to being a pollinator-friendly park system. So after we looked at the laws and regulations, looked at it through a district lens of district benefits, we also reviewed other agency apiary programs. We didn't find a lot, but we did find some, specifically in federal agencies. Federal agencies do offer apiary permits. We found some in the USDA Forest Service, Department of the Interior, and National Park Service. And similar to the last item, Renee Patterson, administrative analyst, did a lot of the research on this, and I really thank her, because this is, again, this is not easy information to find. So it took some digging. The basis of these other agency permits are very similar to what staff is recommending. This is an activity that has resource benefits. We need to have some guidelines around it. It is a commercial use, so they do charge a fee, but generally minimal. And it's generally a flat fee per year. So staff is proposing to formalize this program into an apiary permit and create an application form that would be an annual fee of $150 per park per year. And the $150, how did we come up with that? One, that was on par with what we saw through the other agencies. We found some examples in Idaho, charge $150 annual permit, and $150 also happens to be on par with other similar permits within the district's fee schedule. So for example, a annual vehicle access permit for a caterer to drive into a picnic site and be able to unload at a picnic site, we charge $150 fee per year for that. So staff's recommending that as being nominal, but recognizing the commercial use and also recognizing that these permit programs do take some staff time to administer. In terms of the length of time, we're looking at a 1-year trial for first-time applications. And if the beekeeper is successful, we would go for a 3-year term. Similar to other applications, they will apply similar to like a special event permit or day camp permit. They'll tell us where they propose to come, when they would need to access the hives, how they would get there, what their access would be. And as part of the application, they have to show that they are registered with the county agricultural commissioner per the law. Then we would take the application. It would be reviewed by the park supervisor. Stewardship has asked to be a reviewer, approver, and then risk department. And if all of that seems good and suitable, then we would issue a signed permit. So just to recap, the recommendation is that we're recommending the establishment of an apiary permit program for existing and future beekeepers with an annual permit fee of $150 per year per site. And if this recommendation moves forward, it would be added to the annual fee schedule and then could be reviewed and adjusted as part of the annual fee schedule process, along with any of our other permit fees. I think I saw our Chief of Stewardship, Matt Growell, here in case there's a stewardship related questions, and I'm happy to answer any questions about what we've discussed so far.
Thank you very much. Director Wieskamp.
Tell me about the hives. Is there a typical number one of these applicants might have? Is there a limitation? How do we go about addressing that?
So based on the current use, we have seen that most of the current hives are around maybe 5 or 6. 10. Ardenwood had the most at 40.
Wow.
We are suggesting that through an application process, we look at what fits best for the site and not place a set limit. Because, for example, at Ardenwood, having 40 it works really well. They have an area that is perfect for that, and other locations it might not work as well. So we wanted to leave some flexibility for site-specific situations.
No, that makes sense. I know I'm trying to keep plants alive that I do see bees. And I think that's for people and saving parts of that yard. That's very important because it's tough out there, I think, this time of the year. Not a lot of places to go looking for what you need to make honey.
Thank you. Director Rosario.
Yeah, I think this is a great idea. And also, I do, would these licensees also be like our beekeepers of choice if we needed to move wild bee hives that are in places that we don't want them?
That's a great question, and that has been requested to incorporate that as part of the program. My understanding is the current beekeepers that are there have generally provided that as a no-cost service, and they then sometimes incorporate those bees as part of their colony, I guess. I don't know what to call them. And so we will be working, if this general concept is agreeable to the committee and the board, we'll work with legal on how to identify the ability to provide those in-kind services. Great.
Yeah. When I was at Redwood, we had our own beehive. we had a hive that showed up right in front of the residence at Redwood Gate. And so we hired someone to move them. And the beekeeper at the time says, I don't have room for this colony, and we didn't want to destroy them. So I agreed to let him put his boxes up in our upper yard, and we had free honey for a long time.
Good negotiating, Dee.
Yeah, there's a video of me somewhere where I'm helping him move, and the bees are crawling all over my arm.
Oh, I like bees, but I'm not sure that is the picture I want to have me attached to.
It felt very weird, but very soothing at the same time.
Okay.
So I think a great program. Thank you.
Yeah.
So thank you, Dee. I have a few questions. So the boxes that are brought in, are there already bees in them, or do some come in to hope that there'll be bees that will then move to them? So do people bring in bees, or are there the bees that already live in the area that end up being part of somebody's plan?
My understanding is that they will bring in the bees with their boxes. They may incorporate additional bees through the swarm removal process that Director Rosario spoke of, but these are actively managed hives that come with bees. It's different from, there's some passively managed bee hotels or bee boxes that sometimes they call bee boxes that are more passive places for native bees to come into on their own. That's not what we're addressing here. These are actively managed hives by third parties.
Okay. Do we have any reason whether they should be examined before they come into the parks? Because, as you know, once in a while there's diseased bees. What do we do about that concern?
I think I'll answer a little bit, and then I don't know if Matt Corral has any additional comments. I think we are leaning heavily on the regulation that they are to register with the County Agricultural Commissioner, and then that comes with a whole set of regulations and laws that they have to lean on there. So in terms of what we're planning to look at for the permit process, we're going to be checking that they've done their due diligence and registration. And then we're relying on that process to show they're, complying with laws. And then of course, we're outlining in the permit clearly that it is their responsibility to comply with those laws and regulations. And I'll turn it over to Matt.
Yeah, I don't think I have much to add on that. We don't have a lot of experience in this area, but I think I think we would be relying on county ag, as Tiffany said. But if we start to notice a problem, or we start to notice what, contributes to this, IPM could certainly help with doing site inspections and things like that. It's just that we don't have experience with doing that right now.
Okay, thank you. Mr. O'Connor.
The only thing I would add to that, Director Corbett, is that, this is their bread and butter per se, or bread and honey, I guess. And they, obviously they have a big stake in the health of their hives and their colonies. So yeah, I think this would be controlling itself, because they certainly will be coordinating with the local county ag to ensure their hive health and safety.
Yeah. And how is that done? How does one view these, little groups in our parks now to make sure they're being stayed clean and safe and healthy and all that?
How do we monitor once the hives are established? That falls under the park supervisor, and as they do with any permittee or licensee, they might go by on their patrols. We're going to implement the the required signage, and if they notice anything amiss, they would alert both the licensee if there's something to be fixed, and then also alert business services that we can follow up on a contract level.
Yeah. Would it be possible to, in, I don't know, if 6 months is the right time or a year, have another report back and see how success is and how healthy things are and all that? So we can have, regular opportunity to see how things are going. And then also is an opportunity to go out and sort of view the sites and see what's going on. And are they going to be giving any classes or anything to people, or? So there's a bunch of things I just threw out there.
Those are a bunch of questions. We'll have to look at the specifics. I know that we deliberately have them, the current hives that are there, deliberately placed out of the way of the public.
Right.
So there's an intentional, having them in the distance. I'll have to see where they are at Ardenwood and see if there's an opportunity to view them. They don't generally, the current ones have not generally done classes, but they have been really collaborative, especially the one at Ardenwood, in terms of supporting interpretive programs and allowing the naturalists to collaborate with them on programming, from what I understand.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. It'll be good to be brought up to date continuously and how things are going with this great program. All right. Thank you so much. All right. Any other questions from anyone? Would anybody like to make a motion?
Oh, I'll make the motion to approve.
I mean, the man who's had his arm engaged with Vinnie B. I will second the motion.
Okay, Director Rosario is making a motion in the review of the apiary permit program district-wide, and seconded by Director Wieskamp. Please call the roll.
Director Rosario,
Aye.
Director Wieskamp,
Aye.
Chair Corbett,
Aye.
so moved.
Thank you. Another
Tiny
success.
story to add. I happened down the street, I live on a court. These poor people who were trying to trim a tree suddenly ran into what they thought was something bad. Turned out it wasn't wasps, it was bees. And it happened to be that through a friend, I called and got a beekeeper from Ardenwood who came and saw the situation and took the bees away. So I think they do have a good reputation for helping people throughout. And I think it's nothing but good to do this.
Very good. Thank you. It's all positive. Thank you. All right. So the next item is public comments. Do we have any public comments?
Chair Corbett, we have no public comments.
Okay, thank you so very much. All right, so the next item on the agenda is committee comments, item 7. Any comments, members?
Just well
Good
done.
meeting.
Good presentations.
Bzz.
I appreciated the bees being added as a sort of a balance for all the rest. So.
Yes. Yeah, very important meeting, without a doubt. A lot of good stuff going on. Making sure we're taking care of a lot of important things. Thank you. All right, that's it. Then we'll go to item 8, which is Assistant General Manager comments.
All right, good afternoon. I think the only comment I have is the good news, just good news, which is great lately. We've had such a really challenging swim season thus far. As you all know, we have so many of our facilities are closed for a variety of reasons. But the good news is Quarry Lakes finally did open for the season last Saturday. So that's great news. So that's one more open. I think that puts us at 5. I'm still waiting to hear back. I was hoping before the meeting started to hear back regarding Del Val, which was hopefully temporarily closed due to cyanobacteria toxin levels. But I'm waiting to hear back from them, and hopefully we'll get that facility reopened again in the near future. So other than that, everything's busy out in parks, and everybody's staying safe as can be so far. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, Director Rosario.
Yeah, the swimming just triggered something I wanted to ask. On social media at Lake Temescal, people have been posting that people that have been swimming at Lake Temescal have been finding leeches on them. So I was wondering if somebody could take a look to follow up on that.
Yeah, I will get right on that one. I hadn't heard that one before.
Yeah.
That's a new one for me, but probably not
Yes.
uncommon in our freshwater lakes. Yes.
Yeah, there was a couple of people on Nextdoor that commented, made that same comment, that they'd gone swimming and they had leeches all over them. So it might be something else. You never know.
Yeah, it could be, but I hadn't heard about the leeches before, but I will
Yeah.
check into it.
Oh,
Thank
good
you.
Thank you.
Lord. Leeches.
Thank you very much. Any other comments, questions?
Nope.
All right. Well, that was a great meeting. Thank you very much, General Manager, and all the other staff that were here with us today and your presentations. We very appreciate the work that you're doing. A lot of good stuff going on. And if that's it, then I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.